I have been trying to interview somebody that hacks RuneScape accounts for over a month now. I found a few people, some of which state kind of publicly that this is what they do on their profiles. But when I message them, none are willing to talk, not even anonymously. And the reason for that is because anything they say to me could potentially be used as evidence against them in the future. What they're doing is very illegal. So I was surprised when this person came to me, told me this is what he used to do, and he's willing to do an interview about it. He told me that the only reason he's actually doing this interview is because he went to prison, he served his time, and now that he's out, he wants to try to educate people to prevent this from happening in the future. So I talked to him about all the sorts of methods that these RuneScape account hackers are using to get your accounts, and he actually told me how you can mitigate the risk of falling susceptible to these hacks. So I think this is going to be a really great and informative video to help you guys stay safe and shed light on these underground practices. When we first started talking, I wanted to figure out exactly what type of hacking he was doing so I could gauge my later questions. He told me that the two main ways of hacking his victims were A, using a remote administrative tool, which would give him full access to the victim's PC, he could see everything they type, any password they've ever saved, and he could even watch their webcam if he so desired. And the second way was normal phishing attacks, so he had a fake website created that looked exactly like RuneScape, but when a person logged into it, it would send their login credentials to him. His goal was simply to hack these accounts and then sell anything of value on them for real money. He told me that primarily his targets were high-level PVMers, very rich stakers, or anybody else that had a lot of money. Now, within that category, he was also interested in hacking people with really rare RuneScape names, because he could sell those for gold and in turn make that into money. He told me that throughout his time hacking, he got into PMod accounts, billionaire stakers, rare names, even at one point getting on a one-character letter name, which alone is worth thousands of dollars. So we know he hacks, but before we get into the nitty-gritty details of how he actually executed those attacks, first I want to step back to where it all began. He told me that he came across an online forum sometime in 2006 when he was searching for a high-level RuneScape account for free. And he told me that on that forum, he found different postings about how you can hack RuneScape accounts using remote administrative tools and phishing websites. And those different posts outlined exactly where you can get these tools, how you can set them up, and then how you can start spreading them across the internet to get victims. Now, that was in 2006, but this still persists today and on a much larger scale. One of the black markets that I frequent when I'm researching these videos actually has a huge section dedicated to these hacking tools and programs. On there, you can purchase everything from remote administrative tools, the keyloggers, the botnets, the programs that help you phish, programs that will make your viruses undetectable to antivirus scanners, and the most fascinating thing to me is there's actually programs on that forum that are specifically tailored to hacking RuneScape accounts. Even some remote administrative tools boast that they have features in them to log RuneScape account pins, and how they do that is that when it detects you're on a bank in the RuneScape game, it'll actually take a screenshot every time you press your mouse. That way the hacker can later go back, look at those screenshots, and decipher your pin. Why RuneScape is so entwined within the hacking community that even their malware has RuneScape account hacking features built into it blows my mind. How it got like that, I don't know. But it's important to mention because it shows how rampant hacking is among the RuneScape community. If those features are built into this malware, it means that there's people out there that are willing to pay specifically to have that feature. That's a scary thought. You don't see these features built for any other game. It's just RuneScape. Social engineering is where you get somebody to do something that you want through social interaction. And when I asked him, how did you actually infect people with your remote administrative tool, what he told me fell along that lines. He told me that first he would find his prey. He would look for somebody that had a lot of wealth on his account, like we talked about earlier. Then he would strike up a conversation with them. He would play onto their likes and dislikes to gain their trust. Typically, he would try to get their Skype or AIM at the time to start talking to them, because on those platforms you can actually send files, which makes spreading a rat much easier. At this point, he would talk to them, he would share things like flipping methods or other ways that they could get ahead in the game, and he would give them free stuff. He told me that basically he would give them the promise of friendship and gold. Now, another thing he told me at this point is that the remote administrative tool he was using had a feature that would allow him to disguise his file as a picture or a document. And this is very important to note. These programs are known as file extension spoofers, and most remote administrative tools, when somebody sends the stubble one to you to infect you, typically it's either an exe or a .jar file. However, it's very possible for these people to spoof those files so they look like, most commonly, a Microsoft Word document, a picture, a text file. It could be anything. Never trust anything that anybody sends you unless you know that person extremely well. And once that person downloaded that file from him, typically disguised as a picture, and once they opened it, it would put them on his rat, and from there he would have full control of their PC. He could see their webcam, he could see every key that they stroked, he could see everything they've ever done on their web browser, and he could get every single stored password from their browsers. Another thing he told me is that you also shouldn't trust small files. You might see a picture that's only like 50 kilobytes big, and you'll think that there's no way in hell that's a virus, it's so small. But that's not the case. There's also malicious software called droppers, and what a dropper does is it's simply a very tiny program, usually kilobytes in size, that you'll download and you'll execute thinking it couldn't possibly be a virus, but that dropper will actually then go and download the real virus discreetly on your computer so you don't know about it and execute it. So he could rat these people with relatively little trouble. But I wanted to know specifically what he did once they were on his rat to get into their accounts. So he told me that sometimes he would wait watching their computer screen for them to actually log into the game, but more commonly he would just go back after a few days and check the keylogs. A keylog is everything the person ever typed since they had been on his virus. It was even so advanced, he told me, that it would monitor the website that they were on when they typed something, and it would even record mouse strokes for the bank pins. So all he had to do was open up that keylog. Typically he would search for RuneScape.com, and there the login would be in plain text waiting for him to use so he could hack into these people's accounts and steal their items. Now if they didn't log in from the RuneScape.com website, he would actually have to search through the keylog himself, looking for that login information, but if the account has a few billion GP on it, what's 30 minutes of his time? He told me that the biggest mistake a lot of people made was having their two-factor authentications set up on their email accounts. And this was a really big flaw with the Jagex Account Guardian back in 2012, if you guys remember that. The problem with having these services attached to your email account for confirmation is that if you fall susceptible to a rat, the hacker has access to your PC, and most of the time your email account. You probably have it on auto login right now. And so if they log into an account and they need that confirmation, they simply go on your computer and accept it. It makes it much more challenging for them if you have those two-factor authentications set up on your mobile phone. The likelihood of them having your computer and your phone breached at the same time is really low. It's a lot harder and more challenging to hack a mobile phone. Phishing has been around since the dawn of the internet. So I wanted to hear about the processes that he was following to phish people on RuneScape. He told me that at first he paid somebody to develop a custom website for him that looked exactly like the RuneScape login page, except when the person logged into it, it would actually send their account credentials to him. He said that the webpage would automatically give them an invalid username or password response as soon as they hit login, but later that was changed to actually redirect them to the real RuneScape website. He told me that a lot of people didn't check the domain and that they didn't even notice they had logged into a phishing website. He said that he would spread this link essentially through clickbait. He would post it on forums, he would message it to people in game, promising them something like, post on this forum post here, you'll win a bunch of rewards, or he would say that there's some sort of big dupe in the game, a crazy experience bug, and that they can read more about it on the RuneScape forums. But instead of sending them to the real RuneScape forums, he'd be sending them to his phishing website. The thing to note here, and I'd say this not to encourage but to warn, creating a phishing website is extremely easy. All the hacker has to do is go to the real RuneScape login page, right-click, hit Save Page, and then they have all the HTML code to post that exact same page on their own web server. All they have to do to it is add about 5 lines of JavaScript to send that username and password off to them somewheres once the person hits login. So we know he was putting a lot of time and energy to spreading this malware across the internet, but I wanted to know how much he was making from this illegal activity. He told me that on a decent month he could make around $4,000 to $6,000 if he got a hold of the right accounts. He also interjected that he used to run a service where he would hack a specific RuneScape player for pay. He wouldn't do anybody too high profile, but if there was someone in specific that you wanted hacked, you would pay him a fee and he would try to do it. On top of those activities, he also told me he was involved in a very big breach of RuneHQ's database. They used SQL injection, which is a method of tricking a website into spitting out any details from its database that you want, in this case all of the user logins. And from there, they used a program that had been developed to actually test logins on RuneScape. And so they were seeing if any of the RuneHQ logins would actually work on RuneScape, because there's some people that use the same username and password across multiple websites. If you want to be safe, you should use a different password for every website. Now at this time, that's advanced as this software went. It would only test to see if the login actually worked. But nowadays, there's full-fledged bot systems that will try the logins. If the login works, it'll go to the bank account, and if it has a PIN, it'll just record the account. But if it doesn't have a PIN, then it'll actually steal all the items off of the account and trade it over to a mule. One of the things that he told me is because they got so many accounts and they found so many working accounts, they just didn't care to try to go through all the bank accounts, so they ended up just selling lists of like 1,000 working accounts at a time to random people on these black markets, and then those people would go through them manually, trying to see if they could get anything of value. This is why two-factor authentication is so important. One of the last things that I was curious about is what the community around RuneScape hacking is like. And he told me that it's, quote, cutthroat. To trust another hacker was basically signing your own death warrant. Very, very, very rarely would you find somebody who wouldn't completely screw you over for what you had. He said that as fast as he could rat an unsuspecting victim is as fast as these people would turn on you if you let your guard down for even a day. That doesn't sound like a great group of people to be around to me. When it comes to protecting yourself, he said this. Always check the URLs of the websites you are visiting. If you're going to sign into RuneScape, go to the website yourself. Don't follow a link that somebody posted, especially if it's advertised alongside something that sounds too good to be true. He said don't use social messengers like Skype. They're susceptible to hacking attacks. Really, the best option out there right now is Discord to keep you safe, but once again, be cautious of what people send you. He said run monthly or bi-weekly virus checkups on your computer, and always make sure that you have two-factor authentication set up on your account, but do not have it attached to your email account. Make sure it's on your mobile phone. Other than that, be cautious and be scrupulous about everything you see regarding RuneScape that wants you to enter in your password or download some sort of program. Right now, there's a lot of viruses being spread under the guise of RuneScape Mobile. Be very careful. If you want to download RuneScape Mobile, go to the Play Store yourself and search it up. Don't follow a link. And that is all the questions that I had for this guy. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Also, we just passed 15,000 subscribers. That blows my mind. There's plenty more videos in this series coming out in the near future, so if you enjoyed this one, consider subscribing. And until next time, guys, love, peace, and chicken grease.